I don't think the Florida Gators beat the Georgia Bulldogs, but if they want to do it, here's what they need to do.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of your Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Friday. I am Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And like I said, I don't think the Florida Gators will beat the Georgia Bulldogs tomorrow. I think if you think they will, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. However, I'm not saying it's impossible. We've seen some crazy things happen in college football, right? Even this year alone. I do think that if Florida wants to beat Georgia, if Billy Napier wants to beat Georgia, one of the most important things is that you need to go for deep shots early, which is one of the reasons that I'm a little hesitant to say that Florida could win this game with a realistic chance, just because that hasn't exactly been Billy Napier's forte throughout his entire career, not just at the University of Florida, is taking deep shots early. Not a common thing for him. But I think it's safe to say that Billy Napier has never had a dual threat quarterback with the passing ability of DJ Lagway. Anthony Richardson, huge arm, absolutely. But I mean, I remember after week 2 or week 3 in 2022 doing a post-game show and saying, hey, just go to the option because this man cannot complete a forward pass. I don't think I'll ever say that with DJ Lagway, because while he is a dual threat quarterback, he's got a really good arm. And I don't just mean really strong arm. I mean a good arm. He's a good passer. And I think that we've seen enough to say that he's going to continue to be a good passer. You especially have to look at DJ Lagway's big playability with Elijah Badger specifically. I mean, they've got a great chemistry on the deep ball specifically. Like, honestly, I'm trying to think. I don't even remember the last time that Elijah Badger caught a DJ Lagway ball that wasn't downfield. It's just where they connect so consistently and so well. And then you look at Georgia will have 2 safeties out for the first half. And Dan Jackson, being one of them, is one of the primary deep safeties in that Georgia defense. So go attack and make them prove that they can stop you consistently. It's as simple as that. Yes, they're going to have one starting safety and another rotational safety, but 2 of their top 4 safeties not going to be available for the first half. That's when you have to strike. It's as simple as that. That's when you have to take your deep shots, try to cause some confusion, try to make a play. That's when you do it. Like, and if you don't do, if they don't take deep shots in the first half and they start trying to do it in the second half, I'm going to get fired for going completely explicit when I lose my mind on the post-game show, because we will be going live after the game, as always. I would also like to see Hayden Hansen and Arliss Boardingham get sent up the seam as well. We've seen it work with Hayden Hansen more so than Arliss, as in Hayden has run the seam more often than Arliss Boardingham has. However, when Hayden isn't running up the seam or isn't just at move the sticks territory, I need him in pass pro. Okay, I don't need him running the slide route. Let Arliss run the slide route. As much as I love Hayden, want Hayden to get the ball, let Arliss run the slide route. Don't send Hayden into the flats. Leave the underneath work to someone else. It doesn't even have to be Arliss. I don't care. But leave the underneath work to someone else. Hayden should have 2 roles in this offense, especially in this week. 1, work the seams. 2, move the sticks. That's it. Like, just hit the hitch route, and if it's there, hit it. I think that you'll see a lot of cover 3 from Georgia and a lot of quarters from Georgia. They've shifted more toward quarters as they tried to limit some of these deep passes. They use cover 3 with their blitzes because It's a little bit tough to blitz consistently when you play quarters, but it's easier when you're playing cover 3. So they've blitzed a lot out of cover 3. They've used quarters to help limit deep passes, which has hurt them at different times throughout the season this year. But I don't think that the Georgia linebackers are very good in coverage. And I think that hasn't been exploited because of the lack of tight end talent across college football. There's just not a lot of talented tight ends in the country right now. Simply that, or at least in my opinion, there's not a lot of talented tight ends in the country, and Georgia hasn't played a lot of them. But I don't think that Georgia's linebackers are good in coverage. And so I think that, hey, maybe that's an area you look at. Like, yes, it sucks to not have Trey Wilson. I'm just going to expect to see more 12 personnel than usual. That's how I look at it. And I, of course, ideally you see Aiden Mizell get more run and run more vertical routes. But until Billy Napier shows me he's going to do something, I'm going to assume that the supplement is more 12 personnel. So 1 running back, 2 tight ends. One of those tight ends being Hayden Hansen in pass protection, because we talked about this yesterday. Georgia's pass rush isn't bad. It's inconsistent. But they've been blitzing more frequently to generate a more consistent pass rush, and it works. They've got great athletes, of course. When you've got great athletes and you're sending 5 of them at an offensive line, someone has to win somewhere. And a lot of times when you have great athletes against offensive linemen in college football, you can get a pretty easy win there on the edge. So I think that it's important to have Hayden Hansen there in pass protection. Okay, whatever side you think a blitz is coming from. If you think it's coming from that corner blitz that they run, maybe you have a running back in there, but I do think tight end, the better option. I think that you got to take the deep shots, though. I do. And I think in order to take those deep shots, you need to keep a 6th man in pass pro, especially if they're going to blitz at the rate that they've been blitzing at. That means they're going to have 1 less guy in coverage. You keep an additional blocker in, buy yourself extra time. Hell, keep an additional 2nd blocker in. I don't care. Buy yourself some time and be able to actually take deep shots downfield with arguably a we'll say top 5 deep ball passer in the country right now. Again, as far as the volume that DJ Lagway has played, as in the amount of pass attempts that DJ Lagway has made in general, there's not a single player that's been better throwing the deep ball than him. Like, from the sample size of DJ Lagway and up, no one's been better. So I do think you got to take those deep shots, especially while Georgia has the safeties out for the first half after targeting calls. You have to be able to exploit that. Those are the deep shots you have to hit. We could talk about, run the ball, be conservative after. When you are the big underdog, like Florida is 16.5-point underdogs, you need to be more aggressive. Okay? Big favorite, play safe, don't get upset. When you're the underdog, you got to swing. You got to be aggressive, which we'll talk more about later. But you got to take those swings. We are about to talk about the defensive side of the ball for the Florida Gators. I do think that there's one specific area they really need to play well, and we'll talk about that next on Locked On Gators. Our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby, it's a way of life. It takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgates, the touchdown celebrations, or an agonizing second overtime, which is why they've created the Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot with a special flavor called Fan Fuel, the energy shot made just for superfans like us, the fans who are first in the parking lot and who are last to leave and who are there each and every week watching this team, supporting this team, whether you're watching from home, the stadium. I don't care if you're watching from the park or your car, it doesn't matter. You're watching the game and supporting this team each and every week. Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot's yours. 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a hell of a lot of energy. So whether you're prepping for the big tailgate, ironing your jersey, your game day to-do list is always a mile long, and that's why the limited edition Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot is here to help keep you fueled throughout this season. It's available on 5hourenergy.com, and it's shipped nationwide. I don't know if you guys can really see the shirt that I got here, but it's the Swamp shirt, the Florida Gators, and it's from Home Field Apparel. And I've said this before. I said this before home field was a sponsor. I will say it after home field's a sponsor. The absolute best college football clothes you can get. Okay. And for fall, you got home field apparel, shirts for every weather, right? You got long sleeves, short sleeves. It's getting cold up here. Some sweats on, hang out, chill. The most comfortable t-shirts I own are from homefieldapparel.com, which is great because, now I get to not only rep the Florida Gators, but be incredibly comfortable all day long. Go to homefieldapparel.com and use code Gator24 to save yourself some money with homefieldapparel.com. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. Don't forget, if you want to be a Locked On Gators insider, the link is in the description below. It's first 2 weeks free and $5 a month. After that, you get recruiting news, advanced stats that we look at, any coaching, hiring, anything like that, any rumors we talk about in there, and live game reaction. Next thing the Florida Gators need to do in order to have a chance at beating Georgia this year, you need to win on the edges. We talked about winning on the edges against Kentucky, but this one's a bit different, right? I think Georgia's offensive line has been really good in pass protection this year. They haven't. Like they've been just awesome in pass pro. As much as I hate to admit it, as much as I hate to talk about it, they've been really good at keeping Carson Beck pretty clean. But if there's been a weak spot in pass protection, it's been on the edge. Again, they're still good there, but if there's been a weak spot, it's been on the edge. And I do think that it's not a weakness, but it's the weakest spot where you can get attacked and you can give up pressures there. I mean, against Texas in their last game, so not last week, but 2 weeks ago, tackles didn't have a good day, right? Ernest Green III did not have a good day. Xavier Truss did not have a good day. It was tough for them. And I do think that with how good Florida's pass rush has been playing lately, how good Florida's defense has been playing lately, you need to win on the edges and generate pressure there, okay? This is a Georgia team that they've got athletes. They've got great offensive linemen. They're always going to have great offensive linemen, but they've also been able to take deep shots consistently. Carson Beck has been really good on deep shots. The other thing is that he's been not so good when he's under pressure. So I think that you have to win on the edges in pass protection or as pass rushers. Again, still not weak there, but Georgia has been looking to take more deep shots this year than probably ever under Kirby Smart. They've got the best quarterback grouping they've had under Kirby Smart, or the best deep passing attack under Kirby Smart. You need to speed up Carson Beck's internal clock here just a little bit. Whether it's getting pressure and forcing him to throw the ball sooner, whether it's getting a sack, whatever it is, you need to speed up the clock a little bit for Carson Beck and generate that pressure where, again, he's struggled. And that's kind of the only area where Carson Beck has really struggled this year, is when he's under pressure, he's not been good. Whether it's holding the ball too long or kind of trying to, I don't know if he's outthinking himself. I feel like there's some times where he's getting pressure or getting pressured, and he's kind of thinking like, okay, if they're getting in, someone's open, and he's trying to find that quickly, and then he ends up just eating a sack or just getting pressured and forcing a ball somewhere where he probably shouldn't force it. And if you're asking me, he's gotten away with a few risky throws. Then you also have to talk about this Georgia run game. They utilize wide zone a good bit, needs to be contained. Hi, Jack Pyburn. I know that the moment I talk about winning on the edges and a wide zone run game, I know that there's going to be the comments of Jack Pyburn. I know a lot of people love him. You need to win on the edges in this game. I think that Georgia's run game has been really inconsistent. Honestly, that might just be a characteristic of their starting running back, Trevor Etienne. But you need to win on the edges there and contain them. And we've talked about this, right? You need to stop them on the edges and contain them, literally, like push them down, make him, because we've seen Trevor Etienne run, right? someone wins on the edges and is getting in the backfield, he'll try to bounce it in either direction. He might try to bounce it and lose a little bit more yardage and try to run around. If he tries to cut back, Cam Jackson, you got to be there, big guy. Like you have to be there containing there. Or I guess not containing because it's on the interior, but you've got to be there plugging that gap on the interior. They've got to contain on the outside, win on the outside. Linebackers, whichever side they're running to, fly to the ball. Fly to the ball. Again, this is a Georgia offense that running the ball in general has been really inconsistent for them this year. Running the ball outside has been really inconsistent for them this year. You need to win there, right? Like Trevor Etienne, you could look at when he runs outside. He does the Saquon Barkley thing that I talk about, where it's like, oh, well, he lost 4 yards, he gained 3 yards, and then he gained 30. And it's like you've got to limit those obviously big gains, even if it comes at the cost of not getting the 4-yard loss. Even if you're keeping him to between a 2-yard loss and a 3-yard gain, if you're keeping him in that 5-yard range, like you're winning those downs. Force them to be one-dimensional, which again, they are good at throwing the football. This is not a bad Georgia team by any stretch of the word or any stretch of the imagination, but you have to win on the edges and force things to be more difficult for them offensively. This is still a Georgia team. They're not as dominant as they've been under Kirby. They're not as talented overall as they've been under Kirby. Kirby a couple years ago had a freaking NFL roster. This year, he's got a lot of guys that'll be in the NFL. A lot of guys that'll start in the NFL. It's still incredibly talented. I think people are taking this Georgia team and saying, well, they're not just stacked with first-round picks at every single possession. They're not just stacked everywhere or every single position. They're not just stacked everywhere with elite talent throughout that's been dominant and proven. They're still pretty freaking good. Like people are taking it as, oh, they're not as dominant as they've been to they're not a great team. They're still a top, I'll say they're still a top 4 team in the country roster-wise, right? They're still a good team, but they've got their flaws. Okay? You win on the edges, you force them into bad spots, and you generate a bit of a pass rush there. I don't care if it's with Sharif Denson blitzing, which it should be at least a little bit. I don't care if it's with George Gums just beating someone. I don't care what it is. You win on the edges, you make life more difficult for this Georgia offense and for Carson Beck, who, again, he's a really good deep ball passer, but he's been really bad under pressure, partially because he looks for that. I feel like a lot of people talked about it with Cam Ward, right? A lot of people, when talking about Cam Ward, were like, oh, he's always looking for the deep ball, and then when he gets pressured, he makes mistakes, and he turns it over. Carson Beck hasn't turned it over as much, but he still does that, where he looks for the deep ball, and then he gets pressured by himself and then forces himself into a crappy spot. If he does that, you need to capitalize. You need to generate that pressure. And by the way, I know that we've been talking about winning on the edges. DBs got to be ready to come up and make a play on the ball. Like you have to be willing to be aggressive there. Speaking of being aggressive, we do need to talk about how the Florida Gators need to be aggressive, but not stupid, next on Locked On Gators. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if that $5 bet wins. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, on the NBA especially. This is the best gambling time of the year. I want you to know that. I think I like it more than when baseball is going, because now we've got every Sunday, I know I've got the NFL. Every Monday, we got the NFL. Every Thursday, I know we've got the NFL. But then every day, we've also got the NBA, which for me is way more profitable than the NFL, than the NBA, or than the MLB. And I love the NBA. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com. So never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day, we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. And like I mentioned before the break, you need to be aggressive, but not stupid here. And by that, I want to bring up a specific moment from last year that we talked about yesterday, And I mentioned in the third segment yesterday, I really wanted to pick Florida to win. I did. Again, I hate Georgia. Georgia's the team that I hate more. It's the only hate week that I recognize for the Florida Gators there. I hate Georgia. I wanted to pick Florida to win, but I need to be realistic, right? I'm trying to be honest always. Like I've said, I'm not trying to fan too hard. But I couldn't pick Florida, and a big part of that was coaching. I keep thinking back as to this is a more human team, still a very good Georgia team, but more human team. Florida's playing really good football right now, right? But I keep thinking back to last year, that 4th and 1, 4th and 2, whatever it was, where Graham Mertz goes under center. I forgot if it was Kingsley or Jake, but the snap goes under Graham Mertz, between Graham Mertz's legs, goes right to Trevor Etienne, and I still feel like he had an option to throw the ball there, but it got blown up completely in every way, shape, and form imaginable. It was just the worst 4th down call, one of the worst 4th down calls I've ever seen, but definitely the worst 4th down call of Billy Napier's tenure. And I just can't get things like that out of my head. And that's where I've struggled every time when I've talked about picking Florida or against Florida. So many times it's come down to coaching here. And against Georgia, I do think that you need to be aggressive. No scared money don't make money thing was always about 4th down, like going forward on 4th down, all that fun stuff, right? And I don't often have an issue with the decision to go forward on 4th down. I fully respect being aggressive. I get that analytically, a lot of times going forward on 4th down is the right move. Right? I think if it's under 4th and 2 and you're basically from your own 45 and on, analytics will be like, hey, going forward, it's a pretty good decision here. So I don't have many issues with going forward. I respect analytics. I think that you need a good mix of scheme, analytics, and just in your gut feeling about things. So I respect that. I do think that Billy Napier specifically has a problem with 4th down play calling. I don't think that 4th down going for it or not going for it is usually the issue. But I do think that the play calling is. I don't think he's a good 4th down play caller right now, which is weird because I feel like when he first got here, he was pretty good. I feel like when Billy Napier in 2022 was in his first year as the Florida Gators head coach, I feel like he was pretty good at 4th down play calls, and he's just gotten worse since then. Again, I don't frequently have an issue with going forward. You're probably going to go forward on 4th down against Georgia at some point. You've got to be smart with the play call. Aggressive, but not stupid is the rule here, okay? And by that, I mean, we can go back to 2022. Go back to 2022 and look at, with Anthony Richardson, Florida would come out and they go, hey, 4th and 1, play action shot play, right? Like, we'll look at that. I love that. Like, I know that a lot of people hated it. Like, I know the comments in my videos hated it. I know social media hated it. I loved 4th down, 4th and short specifically, play action shot play. When you have a dual threat quarterback that can actually sling it, that goes a long way. Because look at it this way. If you've got 4th down, you're working out the gun, 4th and short. I know there's going to be so many people saying, oh, don't want to. No. I strongly disagree with saying 4th and short out of the gun is stupid. Strongly disagree with it. You can come out in shotgun, run that play fake, and look for a deep shot. They might be expecting run. Someone might be biting in on that, right? Because they're so hyper-focused on stopping you short. They're hyper-focused on stopping a receiver short. But if you've got a dual threat quarterback with a big arm, you run that play fake, you can have any of the receivers running deep. So you've got linebackers creep up, safeties may creep up, corners may even creep up. People run deep, you could take a shot deep. And if it doesn't work, it's fine. Like if you're going for them, that's another thing I think. too many people have the expectation of if we go for it on fourth down, we have to get it. It's a gamble. It's a risk. You have to be aware and acknowledge that, hey, might not get it. It's no guarantee, right? So on fourth and short, you run that play fake, take a deep shot if you want. But at the same time, with a dual threat quarterback, you have the ability to run. Again, I know DJ Lagway is not Anthony Richardson athletically. He's a better passer, especially on a deep ball. And also he can still run and pick up a fourth and short. So if it's covered, like let's say, run the play fake, it's covered deep, tuck and run and try to pick up the first down that way. I have no problem with the 4th and 1 shot play. I've said that repeatedly. I will always say that. I love it. But you can't have snap between the quarterback's legs to a running back for a trick play. No. Again, teams hyper-focus on stopping the run and stopping quick game on 4th and short. That's fine. It's not a bad idea to take a shot. That's why it's a good idea to take a shot. 4th and 1 snap between the QB's legs on a trick play. Again, for a guy that goes, oh, we're process-oriented, that is the most flawed process I could think of. Like, that play sucks if it's a first down, second down, third down, fourth down, if it's a 2-point conversion, if it's anything. That play was a bad idea. It stunk, and I don't care about the result of it. I thought it was a stupid play regardless. That stuff can't happen. You could be as aggressive as you want. You can't be dumb. Like if Billy Napier comes out here on the first drive, it's 4th and 4 and he goes for it, that wouldn't shock me. But you can't have a stupid play call when you do that. You need to be aggressive, but not dumb. I'm not saying you got to be smart. Okay, I understand. Again, going for it on 4th down is inherently risky. So I'm not saying it has to be smart, but it can't be stupid. It's a spectrum, right? Can't be stupid. And that's what Billy Napier has been on fourth down play calls. It's not that going forward on 4th down is the bad decision. It's the play call. That's the bad decision. Can't stand that. That's just stuff that at that point, just punt if you're going to make a stupid decision with the play call. But yeah, it drives me crazy. If I see a ball snap between DJ Lagway's legs to a running back, I'm going to lose my freaking mind. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free breakfast in the podcast. We'll be back tomorrow right after the game to talk about this game. For Locked On Gators, I am Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And you can find all my written work with New York Giants on SI. And I'll see you all tomorrow.